Coming up on the FRC Open Alliance show, 5417 Eagle Robotics out of Texas is on to talk to us more about their general strategy and plan for the season, and then diving more into their intake prototyping system, shooter prototyping system, and climber as well too. This awesome EI and Impact winning team of the past definitely has a lot of great stuff to dive into and talk about, and set some realistic expectations for competing in weeks 1 and week 3 and what that means for their build season progress. So let's learn more about them coming up here on the FRC Open Alliance show. This video on fun is brought to you by our viewers, supporters, members, and also in partnership with the following. Build your alliance with so many other FRC alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/FRC to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information. FRCTs has been trusted by over 250 FRC teams to save on custom shirts and team apparel. Founded by FRC alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with faster options available, you can save time and money for your team when you get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frcts.com. Let's welcome into the FRC Open Alliance show. It's 5417 Eagle Robotics coming in out of Texas. So welcome. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you two do on the team. So why don't you introduce yourselves and let's hop into some of the progress your team's been working on.
Yeah, thank you for having us here today. My name is Arohi, and I'm the subsystem manager for 5417.
And my name is Siyun, and I'm the programming manager.
So in terms of general strategy, when we first discovered the game theme, we went through a very rigorous brainstorming process where we would determine what tasks that we wanted to prioritize and started brainstorming some robot ideas. We largely boiled our strategy down to 3 main components. We wanted to be able to shoot super fast, have a large hopper to carry as many fuel as possible, and be sure to have the ability to play defense. So what this led to us having for our robot features is we wanted to have a turret so that we could shoot from any different part of the field. We wanted an extendable hopper system. We wanted to make sure that we had a climb so we could snag that climb RP, and then also lower our CG so that whenever we did go to play defense, we would have enough weight to kind of push against other teams. So this past week, we've been going through various different prototypes for lots of our different ideas. Each member of the team has kind of been choosing what they'd like to do in terms of prototypes, anything that they have ideas for. They can quickly design up in CAD and then cut some panels to actually make their ideas into a prototype that we can test either on our vision test bot, or we can test using running drills. So the first thing that we made wasn't really a prototype, it was more of a test. As in the previous season, we used to use SDS MK4 swerve modules. This year, however, we are running Rev swerve modules, which have a much different height and they function a little differently than the SDS modules. So when we saw that this field was going to have terrain elements, just like the bump, we made sure that we tested them out. Here, this video is a test of our vision robot, Mike, with Rev swerve modules going over the bump. And through these tests, we can see that our robot with Rev swerve modules won't get beached on the bump, but securing electronics is a really big deal because a lot of jostling and a lot of movement is caused from just that small amount of gravitational displacement. So this was just a helpful piece of data to have. When we go to develop our drivetrain, it shows that we don't actually have to make too many modifications to our base drivetrain design. So next, going on to the shooter prototypes. The first prototype that we made here was intended to be a compression jig. However, it didn't work as intended, as the backboard of the jig was very flimsy. It kept losing compression. So as you can see here, the fuels, they don't go very far. This feature functions more as a kicker plate than an actual shooter. However, we learned from this and are making a much better turret prototype. On the left, we have the actual shooter function, which has a rigid backing for the entirety of the curve and is also going to have an adjustable hood. So we'll be able to change the angle depending on where we're at in the field. We're also going to make our turret using a large bearing. You can see the prototype of the gear system here. that's about it for a shooter. Now, our intake, we learned from the mistakes that we made with our shooter prototype and started by making some compression jigs. We made two different types of jigs. The one you see on the left here was an adjustable jig that could test from 1/5 of an inch of compression all the way up to 1.5 inches of compression. And we tested from that 1/5 of an inch to about 1 inch of compression, which is where we realized we were exerting like way too much force on the ball to push it through cleanly, and the jig itself was feeling a lot of torque. So we decided it would be best to stop at 1 inch. These second compression jigs were designed to better test these 1/5 inch compression and 3/8 inch compression, just so we could see them on a smaller scale and just see how they performed individually. And off of these tests, we determined that anything from 1/5 inch compression to about 1/2 inch compression was kind of the ideal range for any sort of intaking from the floor. So based off this information, two members made two different intake prototypes. The first intake prototype is a floor intake that's over the bumper. It can flip out from the bumper. This year we really like to use rollers. However, we didn't have any rollers on us when we were making this prototype, so we used 2-inch compression wheels all bunched together to simulate the use of rollers. And as you can see in this video, the fuel has no problem with kind of jumping up and over the bumpers where we need it to go. And I actually have this prototype with us. We have a lot of support churro on the bottom here, which we're using to drive the fuel up the curve around the bumpers. And yeah, that's it for this system. Then our second intake prototype is using blue 3-inch compression wheels. I also have this intake here. And we realized that due to the amount of compression that it's exerting on the fuel, it works much better as a shooter than it does an intake. It definitely gets the job done of moving the fuel where we need it to be, but the way it's set up and the way it directs the fuel is better for a high force application than a low force application like an intake. The next up, we have our prototype climb systems. There hasn't been a lot of development done for our climb systems, as we really need to know the dimensions of our robot base before we can actually create our climb system. But here we have a CAD mock-up of a windmill climb system where we would use a windmill hook to latch onto the first and the second rungs. And then we'd use a pivot point to actually flip the robot body over the second rung, allowing the bumpers to be above them, which would qualify as an L3 climb. Not pictured in these slideshows, we have also made a linear slide design system where our hooks would be staged so that they would be in their non-powered state. They would be in the upwards configuration, and we would have our motor actively working on pulling them down. The main concern with that second system is that the powered movement might be really, really slow. So we would have to spend a lot more time and allocate a lot more time to our endgame climb, which is valuable time that we could spend scoring points and shooting.
Do you have an objective or like amount of seconds you are trying to target for in terms of a climb?
We'd like to target being able to climb specifically in like the maybe last 10 to 15 seconds of endgame. And there is discussion about developing a climb that would actually still allow us to shoot into our hub from hung position on the climber bar. However, we really need to be able to test on a tower to see if this is a applicable solution, and we do not have a tower yet to test on.
I think you might be pleasantly surprised. I think we are going to see teams that do it this year. And I love that you're looking at getting into that. There's been a couple other seasons in the past where we've seen kind of robots shooting from some sort of climb position or something like that. So I think that's really cool that you all are considering that as a thing. So I wish you the best of luck in that testing, because I think that's going to be really cool to see.
Thank you.
And one other thing, real quick, I want to ask you on in terms of your hopper and indexing system, that sort of thing, do you have a general amount of like fuel per second you're targeting to try to shoot out of your robot? Or can you just break down a little bit some more of that strategy that underlies which direction you're going with?
Yes. So we're probably going to target about 2 fuel per second. It would allow us to get, we are trying to tune our hopper capacity to hold at least 50 fuel, which then in each teleoperated shift, if we shot 2 fuel per second, we'd be able to empty out that hopper. And I forgot to mention earlier, but with our extendable hopper system, we've been toying with a couple ideas, such as having polycarbonate plates that could extend with the hopper when they're flipped out. But we've also been looking into the idea of attaching a flexible material like a fabric or a net mesh to our robot and to our intake. So when we flipped out, it would be just a little bit better for packaging.
Cool. Yeah, let's get into some of your programming too that you're looking at doing.
Yeah, so this year we are going to have a turret, and that's the first year that our team's going to be doing it. So this will be very interesting to program. For our brainstorming, because we don't have a fully built drivetrain yet, what we plan to do is attach like a little flag on a motor, and then we have a limelight available. So we'll be figuring out how to track April tags, and then we'll sync it with the motor. So then we'll like test to see if that motor turns and follows the April tag as we move the base from left to right, which is what a very rough sketch is on the screen. And then we mentioned Mike earlier. So Mike was an off-season project where we dumped all of our electronics and then we just created a drivetrain, and we used that to test our rev swerve system and just other electronics that we wanted to mess with that aren't on the actual robot. And we named him Mike because he has a limelight, which means that's green. And then he has one eye because he has one camera, which is why his name is Mike Wazowski. And so yeah, programming will be very interesting this year. And yes, one more thing about the turret is that we hope to have a beam break inside of the turret. So just when we initialize at the start of a match, there might be a case where the turret might be misaligned, and that's very critical, or something you don't want to have in a match. So we'll have a beam break inside of the turret where the turret will start rotating, and then once the beam is broken, when it hits a certain patch on the turret, it'll automatically know that, hey, that's the 0 position, and then we'll hopefully have a smooth match.
Well, overall, I think this is a great start. Your team is competing week 1, by the way. So one of the things I just want to ask you before we wrap up here is, when you're looking at competing at a week 1 event, and it's so early for things, do you kind of look at like, hey, we want to get the entire robot done right before that, or are there future iterations you would see in line between like week 1 and week 3 when you compete after that?
So we actually have a kind of really tight build schedule this year, because right after our week 1 event, we're playing a week 3 event, and we only have 9 days of break in between.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little hard for us to implement any additional subsystems. So this year, our plan for the season is to try and keep the systems that we want as simple as possible. Our turret is probably going to be the most complicated. Our turret and our climb are probably going to be the most complicated system on our robot, but we're making sure to keep a very tight build calendar to make sure that we can get everything done before week 1, so that little interim period between our first competition and our second competition can be purely for driver practice and testing new strategies and maybe doing small debugging of the robot. We want most of our construction to be fast and easy to finish, so we're making sure to have a short prototyping period. This week was all dedicated to prototyping. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be fleshing out our CAD completely and making sure it's well integrated. So in the beginning weeks of February, when we go to actually start building and putting everything together, we can get it done in accordance with that calendar and make sure we leave lots of time for drive practice.
I'm sure your software and team and drivers would appreciate that a lot, to have a little bit of time in that short period of time. Well, Eagle Robotics, thank you so much for giving us an update on your progress. We can't wait to continue to follow you along through your build logs and other content created. And of course, getting ready for a week 1 event. Stuff's going to come together quickly, so we can't wait to see how everything comes together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. FRC Tees has been trusted by over 250 first teams to save on custom shirts and team apparel. Founded by first alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with faster options available, you can save time and money for your team when you get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frctees.com. Build your alliance with so many other FRC alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/FRC to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information.